Purim is behind us and Pesach is approaching. This week we'll be reading Parshas Parah in preparation for Pesach, because in the days that the Korban Pesach was brought, there was a need for Tara, for ritual purity. And for that you needed the red heifer, Parah Aduma. I think it's important to put that very much in context and understand why we're still reading Parshas Parah today, although there is no Korban Pesach. And we are unaware of just where the ashes of the red heifer are, so that we could become pure anyway. Is this only reminiscing, sentiment, remembering the past? I think it's very important that we first set down the principle that we are not a sentimental people. Our festivals are not commemorating something that happened a few thousand years ago. You know, as a way of maintaining the national spirit. Every country has its festivals. They celebrate their independence as a way of, I guess, fostering and maintaining patriotism. And of course, you got to make life interesting too. It can't just be that every day is the same. That's not what we're about. In Torah, everything's real. Everything's real today, alive and well. What is Pesach all about? We have a mitzvah annually to relive the Exodus, to tell the story and feel it as if we came out of Egypt. What's real about that? What was established in Yetzias Mitzrayim had a permanent imprint on who we are. And the more we are aware of it, the more we can be whom we are. It's a matter of understanding the Jew and his own subconscious, the Jew and his own genetic makeup. Pesach commemorates the birth of the Jewish nation. We're not like everybody else. We say in Aleinu l'shabeach Adon HaKol, it's incumbent upon us to praise the Master of all. Well, it says, G'dula Yotzei Bereishis, to attribute greatness to He who brought about the beginning. Shelo osanu kagoyei haratzos. He did not create us. He did not make us the way He made everybody else. Nationalities come about. You have a group of people that share a geographic piece of land, perhaps common goals. They form a culture. They call it a country. They take care of communal needs. The Jewish people, we became a nation as slaves in a foreign country, dreaming of going to our ancient birthplace where our ancestors lived, a handful of them. We became a nation in exile, somewhere else. We were oppressed. We were denied every privilege that a human being is normally afforded. They were drowning our kids, building them into the walls, forced labor, dehumanization. That's where we became a nation. And miraculously, systematically destroying every law of nature, Hashem went and hit the Egyptians with plagues. Took us out of there. Split the sea. Took us into the desert. Gave us all a level of prophecy where we then stood at the foot of Mount Sinai and heard Hashem speak. Every Jew became a prophet. And just before that, Hashem declares, accepting this means you're accepting to be Segula Mikalamim, special, Mamleches Kohanim V'Goy Kadosh, a holy people. The Jew has to know. He was created differently. He came about in a way that differs so from any other nation because we became a different kind of people. The Jew is not like everybody else. I know you're not supposed to talk this way today. But the nations of the world that may be challenging us are the very same people that proved the point by our long history, whereby they chose to discriminate against us and at the same time always had expectations of us. The place of the Jew within the family of nations was never like any other nation. Number one, we were hated. And number two, their assumption is, and always was, that we're intelligent, more intelligent than them, that we're spiritual. Face it. Face it. Whatever they may tell us. But our long history shows exactly what we're claiming. We're different. But you know something? We don't need anyone else to know that. That's not what Pesach is all about. It's not declaring it to the world. It's declaring it to ourselves. Just before we left Egypt, we were commanded to eat the Korban Pesach, an interesting sacrifice. There was no altar. It was not in Jerusalem. It was not in Israel. It was in Egypt. Nothing, absolutely nothing was burnt as an offering to heaven. What did we do? We were commanded to slaughter the sacred lamb worshipped by the Egyptians. Roast it, eat it, and then decorate your doorpost with it as a sign that your home is not to be included in the plague of the the firstborn. And then we were commanded that after we leave, every year we are to bring this sacrifice. Where yes, part is put on the altar, there's blood that is placed on the altar, poured on the altar. It's a korban. And the Jew eats of that. What does it mean to eat Kaddishim? What does it mean to eat a korban? Yeah, roast lamb for dinner. What does it mean to eat a korban? The Jew has to appreciate that the same way that every one of us reached a level of prophecy then, by the time we got to Mount Sinai, already before leaving Egypt, after seeing all the plagues, we had reached a level where we could eat Kaddish. What does it mean to eat Kaddish? You eat of Hashem's table. Mishulchan Gavoa. Hashem invited you to dinner. What do you think this is? An experience of having a good meal? That's what it's all about. It's about food. You think people ever got together and discussed, that my lamb tasted better than your lamb, or my lamb was better this year than last year? This is Kadshim. This is something sublime. To reach a point where a human being can eat as a spiritual act. This is the whole nation. This really sums it up. The entire Egyptian experience, beginning with the slavery, going through the miracles, and finally, Ma'amad Har Sinai, turned us into different beings. We can eat as a spiritual act. But what that calls for is ritual purity. All right, if you came in contact with the dead in any way, and the halakhas are quite complex, you've got to be purified. And the Rambam, at the end of the halakhas of Tara, the Rambam writes that although these things are chukim, they are laws without any explanation, we know that what's being said is that it's a frame of mind. The realities here are something where a sensitive human being can understand that there's a reality to ritual purity. The Gemara tells us the story of someone that found food. Out in the fields, he got some food. And one of the rabbis tells him, I can smell that this is pure. He's talking about ritual purity. I smell taras here. This has kedusha and tara. There's something special here. Now, we're not there. Let's not kid ourselves. We're not there. But that's what we're made of. And life to the Jew has to be elevating ourselves from the lower levels of just simply being involved in basic, just gashmias, food. It's all about what it tastes like. And understanding where we have the ability to be so much more. To us, the experience of eating is sharing a meal with the Creator. Something spiritual. Ritual purity is something that we were sensitive to. Something we lived with. True, we're not there now. But this is the direction in which one has to think. The world is so involved. So involved in everything worldly. Meaning to the Jew is not just the icing on the cake. Meaning is what life is about. We don't stop with bare necessities. We don't stop with the luxuries of this world. We understand there's something that's so much bigger, more pleasurable, something that really speaks to the Jew. The Jew is an elevated being. Elevated doesn't mean we're smarter, we're better, and therefore we can outdo everybody. It's a lot more than winning Nobel Peace Prizes. We're winning Nobel Prizes for science. Something much bigger. We've got to relive that experience because that's what transformed us. We've got to be aware of the fact that this is the stuff the Jew is made of. We were extracted from the rest of the world and we became different beings. We will never be totally at peace with ourselves until we realize that, until we start living by that and continue to grow with it and strive for more. So if they tell you that Pesach is all about freedom from oppression, you tell them they missed it. Pesach is about the creation of the Jewish nation, where Hashem took normal human beings and turned them into beings that live by meaning, beings that are capable of and never satisfied without a life of spirituality. Things that are higher, more sensitive, more subtle, everlasting, and more real. So this Parshas Parah, recognize that we're not just telling the story of the red heifer that used to happen. What we're doing is defining who is this Jew. Who is this Jew that is celebrating Pesach? The Jew that can eat kachin and live ritual purity. Because deep down, that's what we're about. We're spiritual beings. The physical side, that's there for the rest of the world. Sure, we excel, we know how, but all that doesn't come close. What the Jew comes alive from is meaning and spirituality and subtleties and a higher way of thinking. Perhaps this beginning, this way of opening the season, will set the tone for all of what we're going to be getting out of Pesach, which is to walk away from Pesach when it's over, not just having had a very nice festival, but finding ourselves as greater people, finer people, with different ideas, living by real priorities, knowing the difference between what is means and what is goal. Enjoy your Parshas Parah.